Hello, I'm Joe Przinski, President of the Board of Directors of KCAT TV. Welcome to Coffee and Candidates. Our host for today is Dr. Larry Gerston, a nationally recognized political analyst and emeritus professor at San Jose State University. Larry is going to be asking questions of the various candidates who are running for town council in this November's election. The discussion will center on issues that are significant to all of our community. As former mayor, I ask you to pay close attention and then vote wisely when you go to the polls on November 6th. In addition, I would like you, when this program concludes, to go to kcat.org and fill out a very short 3-question survey to let us know what you feel about this program and other KCAT programs. Again, thank you for watching. And now on to Coffee and Candidates.
Hey there, I'm hosting Coffee and the Candidates this morning at the KCAT studios. Want to see what it's all about? Come on in. Hi everybody.
Hi Larry.
Good to see you. I love my coffee. And thank you, Cafeteria, for providing this coffee throughout this series of Coffee and the Candidates. Well, welcome to a session of Coffee and the Candidates. My name is Larry Gerston. I'm the host of this wonderful series. It's sponsored by the Los Gatos Community Foundation and under the auspices of KCAT. This series is going on really to inform you, the citizens and voters, about what's going on in Los Gatos and Monte Sereno, particularly with respect to the candidates for the offices. As you know, we have a town council election for Los Gatos, a city council election for Monte Sereno. These coming up November 6th, along with, of course, all the other offices and issues you'll be voting for. But in a way, nothing is more important than these local offices, because we as citizens will have more to do with these people than any other. So this morning, we're talking with Larry Maggio, a candidate for the Los Gatos Town Council. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
So you're running, and it's not the first time. You ran 2 years ago for an office here, for elective office for the town council. You're running again. What's the difference? What did you learn from then to now? How have you evolved as a candidate?
Well, 2 years ago, when I was running, I kind of came into the unexpected. What was to be expected? Well, grassroots campaigning is what I had planned on my format, and that's what I did. I went out there and was door knocking, talking to everybody, because I'm representing them as a new voice in the community. And I learned a lot from the folks in the community. And then the process, going through the process was really a learning experience. Going to the forums, sitting in council meetings all the time and really get to know the people in the audience, to hear what they have to say and kind of put that together with what the council was discussing and how they come up with their decisions.
So the first time around was sort of like a getting acquainted with the political process, part one, and benefiting from all that you learned. You've gone in a perhaps a bit more formal, more informed route this time around. Is that fair to say?
Well, more fair to say is I'm more relaxed. More relaxed.
You're more comfortable as a candidate.
Yes, and I was kind of advised that by other mayors, former mayors, that said, the first time is going to be a difficult time. Could be a difficult time. The other thing is be thick-skinned, because you're going to hear both sides, and so you hear the good side and you hear the not so good side.
Do you find yourself doing more door-to-door work, meeting with more groups this time than you did the last time? What's the growth pattern here?
Last time I was going specifically to door. This time it's more in a group formats where let's meet together. I'm still working. We still have time to have actually more neighborhood meetings, or grab your neighbors, somebody host, and let's grab a little powwow at somebody's house and And that way I can hear from others and we can have, more discussions on topics that come up. And so it's a big learning experience there as well.
Do you find your ideas in sync with the members of the city council, or do you think you're coming in with a different set of values and ideas that might benefit the town?
Well, I think there's a balance. There is a lot of similarities that we all think about, and there's also the things I think about and what I believe in. But there is a balance.
What's the issue that strikes you as perhaps most important, or the most important 2 or 3 issues that you think are facing the town right now?
Traffic is probably the number one. The number one issue is traffic. That's the first thing out of everybody's voice is, we have such a traffic problem. I don't even want to live here anymore. I can't get to my house at times, or I can't leave my house, especially during the summertime when they have the beach traffic. I do have a relative that lives in the Almond Grove area, and he said, Larry, he says, I have such a hard time. I have to plan a lot of time to leave my house just to get to my employment.
How can that be dealt with? It seems to be such a conundrum for so many people. What can be done to alleviate some of this?
Well, I don't know about alleviating it, or is it managing it?
Okay.
I kind of describe it as Los Gatos is like a heartbeat or a heart, and we have arteries. And you're trying to pump so much blood through those arteries. Well, we've grown so much in the county that we now have X amount of vehicles that have to get through, not only on our main highways, but they decide to go through our town, and we can only do so much. So regulating how that's worked, I think of it as a surgeon do it. Either he's going to open up an artery somewhere, or he's going to bypass. Well, we only have so many options. So it's how we manage it.
So how would you manage it?
Being innovative with different things. I've suggested maybe having thoroughfares that are one-way, like Santa Cruz Avenue. Make that one-way, make University the other way. Reversible lanes, reversible traffic for one-ways possibly. Others have suggested like a zipper type of thing with Highway 17. But there's the other issue, and I've mentioned this before, is Highway 17 has always been an issue for years and years. I'm a third generation to the valley, and I've experienced and witnessed the traffic all my life. It's just now it's more prevalent because we have more population here. The trucks that are going over Highway 17 have a speed limit, and when you have either bottlenecking or you have reduction of speed, there's a rippling chain effect. And when that happens, the vehicles are now going to start looking for other ways of bypassing backups. And what do? They put on their Waze programs or whatever, Google Maps, and it just starts directing them into different directions.
What do you think about maybe more stoplights or stop signs along Winchester Boulevard or Los Gatos Boulevard or whatever to slow down the highway traffic, to make people realize, I might as well stay on Highway 17. What about something like that?
Well, they already have the stoplights of the vehicles because they're stopped. I commute every day from Los Gatos to Campbell. It would take me 8 minutes to get to work. Now it's taking me 15 to 20 minutes because we've added more full regulation signal lights. And that's frustrating. I think the people of Los Gatos don't want more signal lights to regulate things. A lot of them want more innovative ways of commuting to the public transportation system, using their bicycles, pedestrian ways to get to maybe a shuttle service. And that's one of the proposed ideas I have also, which relates to parking, is having some type of a shuttle system for the surplus properties we have in the areas that we can make actually as parking lots.
Let's talk about parking. That's a good place to jump. There have been so many complaints, particularly from Los Gatos businesses, and you talk about the heart and arteries. Well, that's the heartbeat in some ways of this town. How businesses go really reflects the town's success. Empty buildings, businesses complaining that there's not enough parking. Why should people stop here if they can't park? What's your ideas about parking?
Just what I said. We utilize some surplus properties that we have that we can lay out as parking lots. I know Dublin, Pleasanton area, one of the council members there is spearheading the shuttle system. That's the driverless shuttle system that's battery operated. They're primarily using that as a commuter shuttle. For us, that would be ideal for us to have our people that want to come to Los Gatos to utilize that. Now, can we use that in reverse to get our folks into areas of public transportation? I think that would be something viable as well.
What parking areas, surplus properties are you talking about that can be turned into parking lots?
I came one of the 3 block parties they had on Thursdays, and I was so frustrated that I just wanted to turn around and go home. So I ended up having to go down Miles Lane, and park way down at the bottom of the hill, and then I had to walk up the hill to get to the venue. It was frustrating. And then I looked around and I says, we got some dirt areas here. What if we just paved all this and just had a shuttle go right up the hill and bring the folks there? That way they know. Another area would be Winchester and Lark. That's a surplus property, and that's closer to the public transportation system. That would be ideal to have a shuttle system there. Easy, come off the freeway, park your car, take a little shuttle right into town, and that way you can help thrive the business in our heartbeat of Los Gatos.
And thoughts about a parking garage someplace near downtown?
2 years ago, I was in favor of the parking garage, but we also have the condition of that property. If we build a parking garage, we have to have housing, which would produce more density in the downtown as far as housing. I think it would be more congestive. I would like to see the density housing go more out in the outskirts and the properties, maybe possibly that North 20 area, a little bit of dense housing there, but more so as dense housing would be affordable housing.
Let's talk about affordable housing. We all know about the state's mandate to towns like Los Gatos, the difficulty of meeting that mandate. What do you think about the stuff that's been going on to date, and how can it be, is it enough?
We don't have enough affordable housing. I see a lot of, say for instance, law enforcement, public safety officials. They commute here from the Central Valley. They're living in motorhomes. They're living at friends' places during the week while they're working, and then on weekends they're driving back home to be with their families. To me, that's not a quality of life for them. They're here as employees of our town. They should be able to live in our town and work in our town. Just as I'm a candidate that's required to live in this town in order to serve.
Some cities now are setting aside fairly sizable amounts of money to set up housing for law enforcement and teachers, actually building units for them to live in. I just read Los Altos is one that's doing it. Palo Alto's doing it. And again, this gets to the high cost of living in these areas. Should Los Gatos go ahead and come up with an amount of money to set up these kinds of housing facilities?
Well, that would be nice, but we also have liabilities that we are inundated with. One is the unpensioned liabilities for the pensions. And so the town council is actively trying to come up with an aggressive way of getting that paid down on the interest, so it's not astronomical 20 years from now.
How does Measure G fit into that?
Measure G is a general funding tax, and I'm opposed to Measure G only because it's worded in a way that misleads the voters. I believe that if it's not just public safety or police officers, and it's going to fund filling in potholes, that's what it's basically telling the voters. Even though it does state that it's general funding, it's the way it's worded. Now, if it's a specific tax that says, hey, we are going to fund this or we're going to fund that, I'm all for it. I think 1/8 cent tax, I think we can even get by with 1/4 tax, which would be more helpful for the town. And
well, of course, to do something specific would require a 2/3 vote.
Yes.
Right? And I would assume that the general description was put on in order to just go to that simple majority requirement. But you think that's what, misleading? Or is it irresponsible, or both?
It's not so much irresponsible, it's misleading because of the wording of the measure. Police officers, it's going to help fund police officers and filling in potholes. In actuality, it's a general fund that can be used for whatever.
Do you have an expectation that the money might be used for something other than police and potholes? Is there something that worries you about how that money might be spent? It sounds to me like you're suggesting there's not a real accountability on that money.
Well, general funds is general funds, and if it's needed here, needed there, or they're choosing to use it here, use it there. I look at what happened with the Measure B from the last election 2 years ago. That was kind of a repeat of Measure A from years ago that had different wording, and then the funds kind of got used for other things. So they specifically made Measure B specific, saying it's not going to go to these other things. It's going to be strictly for the transportation.
So would you support Measure G if it said this money is being used for, and then I don't know what topic you would pick.
You know, if it was specifically for peace officers, if it was specifically for helping our roadways, or specifically for the unfunded pensions, that I would be in approval for. But as a general fund, if they wanted to put, say, new air conditioners in the town hall, well, that's, you know, taxpayers don't know that.
But meanwhile, what happens to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, the police officers, the firefighters, the teachers, who are really good but can't necessarily afford to live here? How are we going to deal with that? What's the long-term vision here?
Well, and that's where we have to be creative on our investments and see if we can get different investments that give us a higher yield of returns. And something that they're actually talking about and considering with the finance director to see about doing something like that and getting the reports in. And if it's feasible, then I see that that would be a viable way of sustaining.
You think that we could actually gather enough funds from the return on the investment from something like that to set aside development for these kinds of officials, teachers, law enforcement?
I think it would be helpful if we're going down the path we're going at right now. We're looking at a substantial increase on our unfunded pensions, and that's what we need to really look at
First. Okay. Let's talk about the businesses in the downtown area. I've heard over and over again people complaining about difficulties in getting licenses and permits and long delays and don't know where to go to. Have you heard anything about that? Does that resonate at all?
That's discussed a lot during the town council meetings and outside the chambers when the people are actually complaining. There's the conditional use permits and what's the regulations and does it fit in? And the thing I find interesting is we have so many different things on our books that regulate so many other things that when they want to do something, there's something that comes out in another portion of the ordinance or of the town code that either restricts them or eliminates them. And it's a balancing part that they have to do. And a lot of discussions go in what's in favor, what's not. You get the citizens that talk that, yeah, they like it or they don't like it. But in the long run, it all comes back down. What does our general plan say? What does the conditional use permit actually indicate? And what can they or can they not do? What I like to see is if it's too restrictive, then we need to really look at changing those type of regulations. Conditional on the balancing of how we want downtown to be revitalized and what continues to give us the allure of Los Gatos.
Do you think that the town code, as you say, regulations, rules, policies, do they need to be cleaned up because so many have been added over the years, and as you said, sometimes they actually oppose other ones. Is it time for a general cleanup, maybe through a charter review?
Well, I've lived here all my life, and I've seen the Valley of the Heart's Delight turn into the Silicon Valley. And I know that you've experienced in your book, I read some of your book indicating of how California history and this area specifically as well. Evolving, we went to the Silicon Valley. And now we've had this explosion of all these corporations and the population. We have to grow with it, but we still want to keep the old town allure of Los Gatos because we are a jewel in this valley. And that's another balancing act there that we need to look at.
And you're going to spend the next few weeks appreciating that balancing act all the more as you campaign in the last few days between now and November 6th. Thanks so much for coming by this morning. Another session of Coffee and the Candidates. Thank you. We'll see you soon. For the record, KCAT TV reached out to all the candidates running for Los Gatos Town Council and Monte Sereno City Council. Candidates Steve Leonardis and Ben McLean did not respond to our invitation.